Righty. Welcome on in, everybody. I'm not blowing everyone's ears off, am I? How are we doing in the chat? And before y'all say it, because I know you say it every time now, and I poofed it out a little bit more. Yes, I know the beard game is on today. It looks good. It just I just had to fight off a 6.5 year old or month old and grabby hands. But yeah, we're at day eight. Day eight of NASCOURT has just finished up about 10 minutes ago. We're still getting stuff coming in from the conclusion of the day, but we do have notes ready to go, and we'll talk about that. There was different talk, and we have a video out as well about the Nashville Fairgrounds and the latest drama with that. Of course, yeah, there you go. My Lamar Jackson hat, as everyone likes to say. Um, Trust me, I got a bud over there ready to go. I don't know if that's been, promoted by good old Lamar or not, but we'll get into a lot of that stuff for sure. And then also, I see that a lot of you left super chats. I think we'll get to that first. We'll let everybody kind of file in, and then we'll start going through some of the notes and different things that people have been putting out today. So thank you for coming on in on your Wednesday afternoon. I saw where is it at in the chat? I want to put it on screen because I'd made a kind of a joke with it. Where's it at? Gosh, you guys leave a lot of comments, which is good. That's fine. Yeah, it was one of the super chats here. Welcome to the NASCOURT Daily Podcast, or we can just call it like NASCOURT Daily at this point. Joshua, thank you again for leaving multiple super chats. I appreciate it. Saying hopefully the Fairgrounds won't be another case of let's get this in quickly before those who are more passionate about the sport and competent like Dale Jr. and Mark Martin do. How much more hypocrisy can we take from them? When we get to the Fairgrounds. Fairgrounds is interesting to say the least. And then says, not that the Karens in the Nashville area who hate NASCAR and racing in general and want to demolish the fairgrounds are any better, but still. Yeah, we'll get to that in the second half after we talk about the court stuff. And then below the apron with the awesome Darth Vader profile pic, saying Jim France did not help NASCAR's case with answers like I can't remember, I don't know. Not a good look when you're the leader of a major sport. So I think that's a good kicking off point to kind of talk about sort of yesterday bridging into today. Jim France finished up, and there's not many notes I have from his side of it. Honestly, today was much more um, analytical and numbers and debating that. The hard hitting stuff, I think a lot of the harder hitting stuff has probably come and gone, or at least the shocking stuff per se. So I think at this point we're now just sort of talking more nitty gritty with NASCAR's witnesses coming in. But Jim France, a lot of it today was I don't knows, or I'm unsure, or I don't recall that. When asked about no permanent charters, it was I don't want to make a promise forever that I can't keep, because if that's something that rich business people and CEOs and leaders have ever been known for, it is honesty. So there is that, and so there wasn't much that helped on that end. He disagreed with Phelps that the three strike provision was a veto. So it very much seems like those in NASCAR leadership who are called up to speak were very much not on the same page. That's kind of how it felt. It felt like this whole time through the first 7-8 days that they were just all over the place and almost were flustered through this. Not that in any way it helps when it comes to uh, the legality of how they use their monopoly, which is what this is about. But court of public opinion, I mean, NASCAR has had about as bad of a time as possible with this. And that is the kind of stuff that definitely will carry into 2026, regardless of what happens in the courtroom. Uh, and yeah, that's right. We got the what the F discount. There you go. Good catch. Some of the other stuff too, he was asked point blank if he hires yes men. He said no. Which what else is he gonna say? Yes, I do hire yes men that do everything I say. Like kind of part of the deal a lot of the times with NASCAR leadership we've seen. With that too, he was asked how he'd feel if somebody was in total charge and came in and could take all that his family has built in NASCAR at any time, which is kind of putting the mirror up like this is what you do to these people. You're talking about protecting your sport, and your business and all of this. This is exactly the same thing that they're doing, kind of deal. Again, from the sound of it and the reports, I think Claire B. Lang put out a tweet about this, is that today the jury, from what it sounded like, was much more attentive. There weren't nodding heads, people looking like they want to be anywhere else, falling asleep. Like there's actual interest now from them in the sense that they're wanting to learn more about this and that side of it too. I think that's very important on the human element side, because if there's anything that sways which way, well, again, as humans, we are naturally biased creatures, and we gravitate one way or another on these things. So that is definitely, I think, something worth keeping an eye on too. Is how does it get reported how the jury is necessarily kind of taking all of this stuff in as it comes and goes. Uh, yeah, I know we go one by one, but a lot of these kind of started to mix together. John Probst was up there as well as Greg Motto, and I believe they had an economist up there today. We're going to kind of just combine and go as it goes through that. Um, you know, John Probst started out, and part of what he was talking about is of NASCAR spending about 14 mil a year on R&D for the next gen race car, which I'm gonna be honest, doesn't seem like all that much, when you compare to how much each individual team and car costs in all of this and through the year, at least what's been talked about so far. And that the teams had no part whatsoever in the design of any parts of the car based on what he was talking about. With that too, they brought up that $60,000 to $70,000 a day is the cost for wind tunnel testing time for the teams. And with that too, it's not necessarily, I think, important to what was going on in there, but I did find it funny that they did bring up the Ganassi tunnel at one point with the the wind tunnel and all of those things. I found that really cool because like when you go online and you see like those NASCAR icebergs, no pun intended, and you're looking at all these different stories, that's always like on that third or fourth level and then talked about all the time. And now it's actually been brought up in a court case in front of an actual jury judge. I think that's actually really cool. And a nice little kernel of lore in NASCAR that's thrown in. That'll probably go over the jury who are non-NASCAR fans' heads, but for people like all of us who know this stuff, that's, I think, actually really cool. And they brought up other teams as well that have went out of business and during the charter era, the 11. But though brought up too that Chip Ganassi was in favor of the next gen car. I believe though that his team did not make it to the next gen car at that point. But John Probst was talking more and said that there was nothing in 2016 that had stopped the RTA from creating a series at that point. So if they wanted to, they could, though NASCAR, of course, put in those roadblocks at different points, at least according to what's been talked about. The jury was also shown the next gen for the first time and a diagram of how it was built over time. Again, teaching them more and kind of showing more in depth on that side of it. Probst said that NASCAR determined if fans can't see what the competition is with teams when it comes to spending, like the wind tunnel time, that they would minimize the team's ability to compete in areas to reduce the cost there. Since fans couldn't see it, their idea is that fans wouldn't care. At the same point, though, I mean, you can look at just about every other sport and there's that competition back and forth, whether it be ways you practice or different ways in motorsports that you spend. And I feel like that's the wrong way to look at things. What I think we've definitely learned more about today is that there is so much of a disconnect between NASCAR, the teams, and the fans with this stuff. Um, and maybe this is me just kind of, hyper focusing on a part that's not important. But when I see that, it's like, oh, the fans can't see it, who cares? Well, I mean, like, that isn't that kind of part of the deal, the mysticism of how you gain speed, how you get ahead, different things like that. Um, you know, I'm just saying, man. Peter, good to see you in the chat, man. I was not at NASCOURT today, uh, but yesterday was spicy. Yesterday was spicy. It was why is it spicy? It was very spicy. Um, and then another point that was kind of talked about in that vein uh, was them saying that a race can be compelling in terms of lead changes, but will not be viewed favorably if an unpopular driver wins, and vice versa. Might not be as competitive, but if a popular driver like Dale Jr. wins, then people would like it, kind of thing. Again, I mean, I understand that from, like, just a raw point of view on it, um, but I just it very much feels like NASCAR's flying by the seat of its pants with a lot of these things. It feels like in a lot of ways they're just, you know, going by the whims and will of the people if the networks allow, and that back and forth. Um, I don't know. It just feels very wishy-washy with a lot of these things. Again, none of these people seem to me to be on the same page on the NASCAR side. Uh, Probst did say he was very optimistic on a new OEM being in Cup as soon as 2027. We're all assuming, and I think it's pretty much, yeah, no, not assuming. We've all kind of had it confirmed at this point. That's Dodge. So if I mean, at the earliest 2027, that'd be the aggressive route. But let's be honest that Dodge, Stellantis, all of them, they've made some questionable moves to try and, get to different parts of markets or get to different places business wise as quicker than maybe they should. I still think 2028 is probably the better bet unless we hear some good confirmation on 27 happening. But I don't know. I mean, it might be a value bet to put 2027 if they have any betting markets or anything like that. Um, Probe says his feelings of the teams saying that costs go up with the next gen is, quote, one of bewilderment, and blames the spending on things that they don't need. Like, they talked about and has been talked about with 2311, the lavish way of the airspeed being built and spending on different areas that NASCAR isn't cracking down on. But to the defense of the teams, I mean, you're going to get left behind because, and I know it's not necessarily the greatest logic, but it is racer logic. If you don't spend that money in that area, somebody will. And to have a major team that looks modern, looks really appealing, and looks like something that is a good place to be partnered with, that's great. I would assume for sponsors as well that you would have in person, um, and getting them in the building better. You don't want them to kind of run into like a old beat up garage, as much as all of us would love that, and I think would find that more endearing of a place to look at. A modern looking facility would be much better, I think, at getting modern sponsors. And yeah, Eric said Eric in his video stood next to Mr. France himself, the red brick wall. I mean, I think I brought it up before that I got to have a short conversation with Jim France at Kansas, and he was very, I don't think soft spoken's the right way, but he definitely did not speak with a lot of you know, I guess just volume necessarily. It was very much deliberate, to the point, and different, to getting to the point quicker, but very deliberate in the words chosen. Um, and on all honesty, I know everybody wants me to, I guess dry is a good way to put it, but and everyone probably wants me to paint him as the super villain that's, you know, puppet mastering everything, and I'd be on the edge of my seat the whole time. I wasn't, honestly. He was decent conversation, in all honesty. It was talking in 2019 at Kansas about the next gen race car and the rollout for it. And he pretty much told me the rollout. I got to report it on NWP that week. The one thing I do remember is like Phelps, Helton, O'Donnell, and a few other NASCAR execs were like circling all of us, him and I, because he took me through the entire inspection line, and like explained stuff to me about it. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I have a picture of it somewhere. My dad took a picture where it's like, it was interesting. And I'm probably assuming he did not really care to talk to me, but he was polite enough to. It's probably because I looked more like a fan than media at that point. So I was dressed more like this than actual professional media, and I wasn't there as media. But I don't know. Felt like something that would be interesting to interject in that. Y'all know I love my story times. Looking at some of the other stuff, Probst was one of the primary authors of the gold codes, he admitted, though would not take full responsibility. And that's, again, we're probably going to find out it's so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, but we're probably not going to find out the whole details and all of this for a long time, unless it's necessary for this trial. Probst also says NASCAR is happy to have competition in the market, saying what he has to say. And that the teams did not have to spend $20 million a year. They could have spent less and been competitive. So again, we're getting to the point where now we switch to the people that NASCAR is bringing on. Don't be surprised if you're going to hear a lot more pro NASCAR stuff come up. That's just the ebb and the flow we were all assuming going into the second half of all of this. So there is that. Again, most of this is Probst that's saying this. So NASCAR offered the teams opportunities for cut costs, but they just spend elsewhere. Teams don't want to tell sponsors either that they don't need to charge as much now because of cost saving. So kind of throwing a jab there at the teams. I mean, if they end up having to spend less, teams still are going to ask sponsors for the same amount. And for teams to deny that would be silly. The question is whether or not those cost cutting abilities really made that much of a difference at that point to the teams. And talked about the $150K a year Wi-Fi that the teams don't have to get it. That's the top level. There's others that are like 1,000 or so for a weekend. The funniest part about that, though, is I know people who've said this, that even the best Wi-Fi that NASCAR offers on pit road doesn't work. And nowadays, though, with the amount of different programs for strategy and the computer getting the SMT data and communication back to their war rooms at the shops that some of these teams have, to have good internet connection at these racetracks is paramount to getting an advantage. If all of the Ford team's internet goes out, they're all at a huge disadvantage compared to Chevrolet and Toyota. It is necessary, in my opinion, to get the best of the best. I mean, hell, again, I try to say it in ways that I'd understand too. In a smaller sense, a much smaller sense. I mean, I spend way more on internet than the average person probably would need. I make sure I have fiber and I have all of these different things connected, and that my upload speed is like, 800-900 megabytes instead of like, a lot of people I know that are like in the 3 to 12 range. Like it'll be over 1,000 for upload, download, all of that, because I want to make sure I have the best of the best to put out the best of the best when I'm streaming, when I'm doing different things. And so on the NASCAR front, especially in some of these tracks that are in the middle of freaking nowhere, yeah, you need to spend the most to ensure that you're not going to have major issues. And outside of being at Worldwide Technology Raceway, the technology generally holds up for a lot of these teams pretty well. So, I don't disagree with this point. Where's it at? I don't disagree with this point. I do think we've gone too far in some areas and taken a lot of that human side out. The thing with NASCAR, and people don't want to admit it, but I think up until the middle of the Gen 6 era, one of the things about NASCAR that kept people on their toes and kept it very interesting wasn't necessarily the crashes. I know a lot of people are going to say it when I bring up human error. It wasn't the crashes, it was the fact that somebody could make a really bad move. You could make a really bad strategy up and it would cost you more. And now it still happens where people run out of gas or they make a bad move. But in the Cup Series, it's very few and far between, even compared to what it was pre next gen era. So like I'm totally with you on that side of it. The fact that they're talking about like AI models and different things that AI can do to help too. Like I'm like, come on, like no, we need to get less of this. It's like it's kind of like having like the mirror on the dash that covers everything, and you don't even like really have to move your head as much and don't have to have that delay at any point. I get it's a safety thing too, but it's like the human error side and the human delay side is what makes NASCAR so damn interesting. I mean, hell, if you want a perfect example of human delay causing something crazy to happen completely out of the control of the person doing it, not on purpose, look at the 2006 finish at Talladega where Dale Jr. is leading. Jimmy makes the move. Brian Vickers just a split second too late, hooks 48 in the 8, and he gets the win out of it. But those are that's those kind of moments. And that's, again, that's not just on the track, it's also on pit road, in the garage area, through the weekend, all of it. um but I know that it's probably a losing battle to want less technology when that's just the direction everything is moving. Some other stuff with it here says it's false that Front Row was forced to buy 7 cars per charter, says they bought 6 instead. And then I believe Greg Motto was up from NASCAR, had the narrative that NASCAR didn't have enough money to fund the teams. Kessler was not very happy with this and was trying to rip into this argument a lot. Um, and again, I'd mentioned one of the bigger notes is that the jury is definitely getting more into it at this point with a lot of this talk. A lot of it too was, I believe, having to do with money. I'm just trying to check where there's been some updates. They did have Professor Z, who is an economist, come in, and he disputed Snyder's forecasts and models comparing NASCAR with F1 and what teams are owed this. Um, Again, we're probably going to get a lot of economists, especially, coming in on all of this. Let's see, Toby Christie had put something out about this. Said under cross examination, the plaintiffs got Professor Z, who said Snyder didn't do enough work on his analysis to admit he didn't factor in possible changes that NASCAR would be built for world if anti-competitive actions had not been occurring. And also said that he'd seen documents of NASCAR execs saying that they felt they were making offers during negotiations that would harm the sport, and it indicated that he hadn't seen them and was unable to identify Steve O'Donnell, which led plaintiffs' team to question how he could be making $1,200 an hour, working hundreds of hours on analysis, and not know who the president of NASCAR is. Professor Z claimed knowing who O'Donnell is was irrelevant to his analysis, to which plaintiffs pointed back, I should say, to communications saying that his analysis should have included thoughts from NASCAR execs who felt negatively about the direction of the sport. That's probably not good either. Somebody hired by NASCAR not knowing who the president of NASCAR is. Um, let's see. Uh, Again, it's a lot of. I can see why they're calling him Professor Z, though. I saw his name, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna try and read that. It's Zmijewski. So I'm just gonna go Professor Z as well. Um, Now, one of the important things that's been brought up with a lot of this, and again, there's a lot of repeated um, reporting in this. One of the things brought up is that Judge Bell has said the trial will not likely be over until next week. NASCAR should be done presenting by the end of the day on Friday, though. He also ordered both sides to resolve the RCR sale issue and all that's going on with that kind of drama with it, which that's probably going to be something that really, really gets pushed into the limelight, especially with how upset Richard Childress is with Phelps and NASCAR. Just saying, maybe we get more fireworks. And hell, with appeals and stuff, NASCAR may go on for a while. Let's see. I'm just looking through some of the new things that have popped up as they're coming in, or as they have come in recently. Yeah, I mean, by the end of the day, 5:30 Eastern time Friday is when they're aiming for that to be done. Then there'd be, so we had it kind of told to us last week or yesterday, and that's probably gonna end up being the case, which I'm not shocked. Um, where is it? We believe, according to Bob Pockris, NASCAR has at least 5 more witnesses. Another expert, Brian Herbst, Roger Penske, Rick Hendrick, and Curtis Polk. Plus, they will play part of the deposition of Fox exec Jordan Bezant, I believe. Their hope is to be done, of course, by Friday, and then any rebuttal, closing arguments, jury instructions, and deliberation next week. So, yeah, we're probably hey man, who knows? We might have a shot that I can start out the stream with "Give it up for day 15." We honestly might. I'm seeing it there. I'm seeing it. And Peter says, aiming to be done Friday. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm going to take Peter's word on that. He has been there through this and sat on those uncomfortable ass benches. I kind of lie in the same way with that one. I mean, 5 more, and I'm assuming they're going to have they haven't finished with Professor Z. Z. If you've watched Charlie the Unicorn, you know what I'm referencing. So 5 more, 2 days. Maybe if they speed it up a lot, maybe if Judge Bell puts the fear of God in him, which I doubt, or billable hours, baby. But that about covers it. Again, I don't think there's going to be any major bombshells the rest of the week, honestly, unless it's somebody really crashing and burning. It does sound like, though, that it did not necessarily swing the tides back to NASCAR's favor. And that's what I talked about yesterday when we went live, is that if NASCAR really wants, if not even, they're not going to win the court of public opinion or even really sway it too much, but if they want to at least have the appearance that they held their own better, they needed to go through the rest of this week and maybe next week, if it ends up being there, getting some of the wind back into their sails rather than the teams. And I don't think today moved the needle at all on the court of public opinion. But at the same time, I don't know what's been said or reported yet that has really been a smoking gun for something illegal thus far. We've beaten the dead horse nonstop of what this is all about. But I don't see it right now. Unless, again, reporting might have missed stuff. I mean, a lot, credit to all the reporters out there, but all the people that have been out there I've seen have said, like, we are not legal experts. And I don't blame them for that. So maybe there's something in the reporting they missed that was different. I don't know. I don't know. I'm very interested, though, in the conversation through all of this so far. On the inside of this, but also on the outside. I watched Dale Jr. and his sister talk a bit about this on Dale Jr. Download. I found it a very interesting conversation, just because Kelly Earnhardt is she is one of the people at the tippy top of the business world in NASCAR. I mean, she is, from everything I've heard from anyone else talked about her, from what you can see with JRM, she is the best of the best. And the way she talked about how this happened with Dale Jr., Jr. definitely, with the business side, but a lot of the racing side, Kelly knowing plenty about the racing side, but in depth about the business side. it seems like so much vindication to all fans from people we trust like them that have said this was easily avoidable. It was. This whole thing was avoidable. We're all going to suffer from the PR disaster, from whatever the fallout is of the ruling and the appeals, all of this different stuff. But that, this whole thing was completely avoidable. And the sport could be in a much better place if not for how all of the people involved acted. And I know that they were very diplomatic in the sense that they didn't want to necessarily pin it on one person or one entity, but it's pretty clear by how they talked about it. And even Dale Jr. talking about like the way they talked about him with SRX, you could tell by how he talked about it. He was, to use a word they use today in court, he was very bewildered by it. But I also think he was kind of hurt by it that, they're using him as an example when he had nothing to do with it. And that at least is what I kind of read into that. I did find it funny. It was like NASCAR needs a PR win, 36 races, maybe do that. And I'm just like, hey, you know what? He's a man of the people. He's been saying what a lot of people have been saying. But I will also echo what he said. It's probably unlikely. I don't know. I mean, based on how people have talked about this, I've seen other shows talk about it and other people in the know that have talked to me. I mean, most of this is just flying by the seat, just flying by the seat of the pants, throwing shit at the wall, seeing if that shit'll stick or if it stinks, and just going on to the next thing. And the track record, how they talk about things, the hemming and hawing on different things, it all leads back to that. I'm just I'll be completely honest. I'm just sick of NASCAR leadership. Like I was already not, a fan necessarily, but like I could at least, say, well, this about O'Donnell or like this about Phelps. But after everything we kind of heard, after seeing how like it just seems like so many of them are just chickens with their heads cut off and just running around. Like it's just validating the point I was making going into, out of October into November. Nothing changes until the France family sells at this point. I do have faith at least a little bit in Ben Kennedy, but that's probably because I haven't learned enough about Ben Kennedy yet, and maybe I'm being naive. But I don't want a singular member of the France family leading the way anymore. If there's any way that we can or they can restructure things more, I'll take it. But I just the more and more we go, the more and more I'm like, I don't see a path forward where NASCAR grows anytime soon because of their leadership, because of the bad decisions, because of the fact that it to me is clear as day. They have not learned a damn thing through the Brian France era, the Jim France era. And I don't think they're going to learn, maybe some of them will be scared enough to. I know people said Steve Phelps looked very not scared, but just like almost, I guess maybe a little nervous, red, flustered. Maybe some of the lower level people will, but I don't think Jim France is going to learn a damn thing out of this. Like, I don't think there's anything he's going to take out of this that's going to be like, how can I self-reflect? Maybe I'm out of touch. No, it's everyone else that is wrong. Like, that's where it just kind of feels like we're headed with this. And if NASCAR doesn't completely outright lose, nothing's probably going to change. We're going to have the same damn things going on, and he'll only be more vindicated because they will have gotten away with it if there was something that they did. Like that's kind of how I stick with this whole thing. I wish it was different. I want to be more positive about it because I feel like there's so many things that actually are going for NASCAR heading into 26, or could at least. 2026 has the potential to be a really fun year as a fan. And I can't wait for us to start talking about the racing again and not the lawsuits and the lawyers and the business and all of this other stuff, like just the racing again. But that feels so far away at this point. I mean, it really, really does. And I guess, to point, like Jim France is just a figurehead. I mean, kind of. Like I would say at the end of the day, I think the TV people are still at the top, but I mean, it's clear, Jim France is the brick wall. He has said it. He is the brick wall. People have said he's the brick wall, and go from there. Your beard looks terrible. You're wrong. But hey, to each their own. The fairground stuff though coming on. There's a little bit of talk with that. And let me see if I can pull up on my end. Plus the beard won't be lasting that much longer. Hey, you corrected it. You corrected it. Okay, cool. Everyone always calls me Jared, and it's like that's not my name. But the National Fairgrounds stuff that is coming up that we'll talk about in a moment. Let me see if I had the article up and then it reset on me. But it seems like there is a coalition of people that are coming together to try and kill the fairgrounds again. And now I have a video about it. It's definitely something I think you should check out because I've been, live near the fairgrounds, not like right by it, but in the area, go there a good amount, not as much as like a John Ramos who commentates there, but more than probably the average person every year. How a lot of the footage in that video is footage I filmed. But yeah, local coalition has filed paperwork to change Nashville Metro's charter, which would eliminate the requirement for auto racing at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway and open the door for affordable housing, green space, and environmental protections. Because that is something that the cities really have been doing great at in general. Protecting environment. I'm going to be honest with y'all. It is the same people. It is. It's the same people again. They've just rebranded. I still think it's important to fight back and to make a point known that we do want racing, supporting the fairgrounds and your local short tracks in general. I mean, just take that as a lesson here as somebody who lost their home track. But I'm going to say this. This is the same people for the most part, because I saw other articles with other people's quotes that I recognize different names. The same people from the CARE or Karens, as we called them. It's the same people that were talking about Cumberland Yard. It's the same people that were talking in 2021 and in those meetings and being all angry. It's the same people. They just rebranded. They just did a switch up, about face it all. That's all it is at this point. And the thing about this is they need like 50 or 60,000 signatures on an issue that is not of prime importance to most people in Nashville and even around that area. There's plenty more things that are important in Nashville. Plenty of things in Nashville need to be changed. But it's another classic example of people moving to an area next to a racetrack and then bitch and moan that it's loud, that there's too much traffic, that there's this and yada, yada, yada. And I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care. You move next to a racetrack. That's part of the deal. All right. Oh, well, I thought the racetrack was going to be closing. Okay. It didn't. Again, this is, if any of those people for some reason maybe are looking it up to see what the opposition is saying, I want to just tell you this. And if you know somebody, let them know this. This whole thing is not the fault of a racetrack and a culture that has been built up for over 100 years and is one of the oldest racetracks in America. It's not the fault of them. It's not the fault of NASCAR coming in and wanting to spruce up and make a better facility with SMI in your city and make in turn your city look better. None of that is their fault. The only one at fault for you being upset that there is a loud racetrack that might have loud races near your home is you. And you miscalculated. You made the poor decision to move without doing proper research on it. That is on you. Take accountability for your actions. Move the hell out and go somewhere else. Go away. I moved down to Tennessee in the general Nashville area. And I did not come down here to say, you know what I want to do? I want to change everything. No, I moved to this area because I really like it, because I fit in here, because I love the state of Tennessee. I didn't come down here because a lot of these people come in here, like you can tell, And then they've brought up that they moved here, 8 years ago or whatever, or 12 years ago, or in the last couple of years. No, you don't move somewhere and then tell all the local people that you need to change so you can better fit them. Kiss my ass. All right. So keep fighting and do this with all your racetracks. Use my old hometown track, the Rockford Speedway, as a cautionary tale on this. Keep fighting, because all racetracks nowadays are under attack in some way by somebody. I mean, Laguna Seca right now has been in the midst of a ton of different back and forths. And that's even bigger, I'd say, than the fairgrounds. So keep fighting, support those tracks where you can. And even if you can't go, most of them have some way to watch online, whether it's with Racing America, Flow. Some of them, some tracks now put them for free on YouTube just to keep that momentum going, to keep it in front of eyeballs. Whatever it is, keep supporting your tracks. Do I think that the fairgrounds at this time, from what I've heard and other stuff that's still to come out, is in major trouble? No, I don't. But there are very powerful people in Nashville with a lot of money who are funding the opposition to it. That's the thing about this whole thing. This is not some grassroots deal that sprouted up and has a ton of momentum and is now in the local news. No, there are people with millions of dollars behind this who are going to prop it up and make it look that way. There's too much invested in the nearby soccer stadium and other stuff going on. I think the fairgrounds should be all right either way, just because there hasn't been the support for getting rid of it in the last 15 years. They had a chance in 2011 to make this not happen, and they failed miserably. So for those who are worried about the fairgrounds, I hope I kind of quelled some of that. I don't, again, it's anytime there's any kind of group that's going against it, you definitely want to keep an eye on it and fight back a little bit. But I don't think this is anything different than the last 3 or 4 times we've heard. And it's interesting timing, as it was only about, I want to say 3 months ago, that we had heard that behind the scenes, there's actually been some movement and the city is more on board with it. And that NASCAR and SMI are talking about. So I don't think it'll be anytime soon, but I know people I've talked to have said, like, don't be surprised if like a rogue fairgrounds race for the truck series pops up in like 5 years or something, or whenever that might be. We'll see. But I hope, as much as I was kind of getting worked up about just the racetrack thing in general, I still think it's in a much better spot than a lot of people have probably taken from it in the last few days because of this, or last, I guess, day because of this. So, the I just Beast of Metal saying, why no one in America gives a shit about soccer? Because the MLS is the sports retirement home. I don't know as much about soccer, but my friends that I know, they live up in Illinois still, that are more into it, have kind of echoed the same thoughts and statements to me. So to see somebody else say it like that, kind of strikes home there. And yeah, we need to balance the 5 F1 races with the 5 NASCAR races in Nashville. Let's see. So is NASCAR close to those in ratings? If we're talking MLS, no. The MLS kind of nuked their own ratings with jumping onto Apple, which is why so many people were ringing the alarm bells about F1. Like, hey, this hasn't worked for people before. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's see what else we got here. I think a few more people left supers and member chats too, and I'll keep an eye on the chat too, on what you guys are saying. We think we got through that. Timothy saying, so far Hendrick has some mid schemes for next year. So I honestly don't mind the Bowman one. I still think 21 is king on that one. The Chase Elliott one, I think it's a little too much. I think a few minor changes would make that one actually more popular. I'm assuming Larson is going to have the Hendrick Cars scheme. So then that just leaves us to that one that we saw of William Byron today, which is probably one of the laziest schemes I've seen a top level team with sponsorship ever make. That's just it's bad. I will give the time on the Bowman one and the Elliott one, especially like to see what it looks like, not just as a render. Especially, I believe the Bowman one. All I saw was the render of it. But the Elliott one too. Like I'll give that time. I can see where a good scheme is at in those. The 24, no, I can't. Like that's just it looks bad. It looks really bad. It looks lazy. I mean, that's just the best way to put it. It's lazy. Gavin says, I've seen people say Dale Jr. or Mark Martin should run the series or would run the series better. But if you were in charge, what are the three biggest changes you would make? Three biggest changes I'd make. All right. Well, going from playoff to 36 race championship for me is number one. That's an easy one because that's just something with the stroke of a pen I think you can make, you know. If you're like again, God Emperor completely in charge, all of that. Two, a massive, massive overhaul of the car. That would take time. You can't just Thanos snap it. Like, but I would want a massive overhaul or just a redesigned Gen 8 car. With the team's input, figuring, a little better. Try and figure out ways that you can make it more cost effective on top of that, because you do need to help the teams out with that. In that sense, that you really do have to help with that. But at the same time, you need something that's not just completely broken. So if that means spending more money on testing, having 30 car packs at, any given racetrack to test, make that. So format, car, I think those are the two big ones right there, because like the car, you can fit a ton of different stuff with that. You can get rid of the underbody, you can up the horsepower, change the tires, you can completely change the body itself, everything internally on the car, everything you can change on it. And that still would count under the umbrella of just the car. So I'm kind of cheating at this. From there, honestly, from there, I would put a ton of money into beefing up NASCAR productions the way and make it to the level that F1 has their production. To that level, but it's coming out of NASCAR. That way you could spend or the networks that you're partnered with would spend less money, and you might be able to get yourself some more over the air races and better broadcasts. I think the broadcasts outside of the 5 prime races they have a lot of room to improve production wise. And I think that good production and a good showcase of your racing, and especially if you have a better car and a better championship, good racing and some more weight to that, I think would better get people invested instead of, because I do think with the 36 race championship part of it, you're going to have a group of people that will get bored if you have not that great of a broadcast. But if you, instead of 5 basically Amazon level performances, you have 36, and then you add in the like if every race is at that high of a level and you don't have to go to the commercial as much and you have that side of it, I think fans, even for bad races, like what we saw with Pocono, for instance, which was not a good race, fans generally were in a much better mood because you were at least fleshing out good stories through the day all over the pack. You were having a ton of different analytics towards all the finishes and everything going on, and it makes bad races more enjoyable. One of the things that even if the championship, even if the racing can't make the fans happy, if you can just figure out ways to maybe quell some of that too on the bad days, I think it would help the word of mouth. And I think that's really a lot better. So broadcast, car, and format are my 3 big ones right now. And then from there, because with broadcast too, I think you can fit marketing under that NASCAR Productions umbrella. You get, better marketing with that side of it. I think you can really start building and correcting things. Now, again, there's so many things internally that I don't know that I wouldn't be able to fix. I don't know the relationships with, X, Y, and Z with 1, 2, and 3 departments. But I think those are some things that I would want at least. I mean, I'll just say this. Imagine the momentum that NASCAR fans would feel if the racing was really good for it. It mattered more towards the whole season and the race itself that day. And the broadcast was awesome. As good as a prime broadcast for the Daytona 500. I think fans would ride that high for at least a month. And then you followed up with Atlanta, which is an awesome race every year. Like, you get those two right off the bat, and then you go from there to the more real racetracks, if you will. Like, I think that you could ride that momentum for fans for a while. I don't know. I see why not simulcast with Prime. There's different rights agreements. You're even though in this scenario I'd run NASCAR, I can't change the way that the sports market is going right now. But like, you can change things under your umbrella and control at least. I know it's not perfect. I know people would probably disagree with some of my points on it, but if you're just asking me, I'd go for it. Gavin says, I'm going to give the Fairgrounds a 50-50 shot at this point. For NASCAR in general. Because I think for NASCAR, it's below 50 at this point still. This is a believe it when I see it thing. But remember, I mean, we've seen NASCAR come back and go to places that defied the odds even more. Maybe not for the right reasons, but this is a big market. It's a market they probably want to get a little more of a bite into with IndyCar. Having been in the city up until I think it was this year was the first year they weren't. Maybe it was last year. I don't know. I'm a casual IndyCar fan, if you haven't noticed. Like, I watch a few races a year, but I don't watch every one of them. But I've seen crazier happen in NASCAR. It's not over until it's completely bulldozed over. That's the way I see it. DVO says, what are the federal senators and congressional representatives from Tennessee's stance on the fairgrounds? Can we write to convince them to register it as a historic landmark? So I don't know. I actually will look. I'll look into that. Let me pop you back on screen so I can write that down. So are we just talking? Yeah, let's see. Okay, so senators and reps stance on Nashville Fairgrounds. Yeah, I don't know, but I think that would be a good way to go about it. Most peaceful way possible. I just think at this point, it's been in the city so long. It's integral to the culture of Nashville in a lot of ways, especially in that area of the city. It sickens me that people who don't appreciate this area the way that people have lived here a long time and people who have really like taken the time to delve into it when they move down here, like myself and others. And don't get me wrong, if you quiz me on Nashville and Tennessee history, I'm probably not going to do as well, but like, it interests me. I love the area. I love the state. There's a reason I moved here and I don't live in Illinois anymore. I don't like when people come in, think they can do as they please, like the area, but then want to completely change it back to the state that they moved away from. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I did not move down here to make this the Illinois of the South. Okay. Like, I don't want to do that. That's just how I am with it. Let's see. Tim says, how do you see losing their rides or maybe who do you see losing your rides next year? Personally, I see Cindric, Bowman, Gregson, and Preece. Losing their rides. So like forced to move out for one way or another. Well, that's a good. Let's see. I pop up the old J-Ski team driver chart and double check. The thing with Cindric is if he doesn't have that protection now of his dad there, then what's really keeping him there if a better driver comes along, you know? I mean, that's I think that's the good question to have with this. Um, and if there's other drivers available that could be at a top level ride, I don't see why Roger Penske wouldn't try and get a better driver. Who that is the interesting part of it. So I mean, Cindric, yeah. Um, let's see. After 26, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna say Suarez. I don't think he's going to do all that much better. I hope he proves me wrong. I think it's really good when Daniel Suarez does better. I definitely see it in my analytics. I'm just going to say that now. When Daniel Suarez does well, even if you like top fives or won that race down in Mexico, like my demographic audience when I looked from Mexico went way up. So like on a selfish point, I hope he does well. I don't think he necessarily will. Kyle Busch is probably moving on at this point. So he'll be on the move somewhere. I will say with them going to Ram and probably not sticking with Chevy long term, Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon definitely will be on the move. Um looking through the list. I like how all these ones have like question marks, other things here, but it's like they're not moving. One that would be interesting to me, Josh Berry. I'm interested to see, especially if they change up the format that points matter much more and you can't like automatic bid your way through stuff with wins. If Josh Berry can't run well, what driver do they get in that 21 car? Because there's no specifics, but all it was is that it's a multi-year deal. That could be 2, that could be 3 years. Um, Priest is another one, like you said. That one's more charter based. If he has sponsorship, though, do you put Priest in that car in the 21 if, and keep him in the Ford tree if Barry underperforms and doesn't bring in some kind of major sponsorship? So, like, maybe Priest gets moved to the 21 and then, like, Barry ends up at, like, the 8. And then you look at, you know, Bowman to me, I'm a wait and see. I want to see how he performs early next year. Um, the sponsors love him. Hendrick seems to be behind him. I want to see first. I would think he'd make sense as the highest profile team to be moving on from somebody, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe Centric ends up in the 21, and who knows? The 2 just has run too bad for too long at this point. That's kind of how I see it, and I feel like Roger Penske is going to want to change that any way necessary. But that'll do it, I think, at this point. So we'll be back for day 9 tomorrow, live, probably same time, 4:40 Central or 5:40 Eastern, right after they get out. So enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. I'm trying to remember the days. Trust me, home with a baby and NASCOURT every day. It's hard to remember the days sometimes. Wednesday. Thank you for being here on a Wednesday night. I appreciate it. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody, and have a good one. Bye, y'all.